So we're heading towards the transfer window opening, and so it's time for the first transfer update in a long while, and the first one of this summer that's coming up. And it's a little bit quiet at the moment because it's early days in terms of incomings. There's players that Liverpool might be signing, and I think part of the reason behind that really is because I guess a lot is kind of contingent on sales, not necessarily because, don't worry, Liverpool aren't skint, they haven't got any troubles in terms of that, and there will be money there to spend in the transfer market. But I think one of the concerns with if you add too much to this Liverpool squad, it could become a little bit bloated. There is a lot of cover in a lot of positions. It is a big squad, even if injuries at times made it look a little bit smaller last season. So I think a lot of the incomings will be kind of contingent really on what happens in terms of the outgoings and opening up a little bit of space. And so I think the outgoings really are going to be the main concern in the early part of the window, and building this squad for Arne Slot. Who does he want to keep? Who does he want to let go? And where does he want to open the spaces up to put his real own stamp on the squad? Of course, alongside the sporting director, Richard Hughes, it really will be a collaborative effort rather than the manager coming in and saying he wants X, Y or Z player. It definitely will be working together. But of course, they're all working towards building a squad that is perfect for Arne Slot football. And so I do expect there to be tweaks, but as I say, I think outgoings are going to be the first priority in terms of the early part of this summer, certainly. So I thought it'd be worth jumping on and having a look at who that might be, who might be the ones who are going out the exit door of Anfield this summer alongside Jurgen Klopp, of course. And I picked out to start with really a few of the sort of headline names at the moment who seem to be attracting interest, who seem to be rumoured to potentially be departing this summer. And one of those, the one I'm going to start with, is of course Darwin Nunez. Now, speculation over his future doesn't seem to end at the moment, does it? There have been links to Barcelona, suggestions he's really not happy at Liverpool, and you can kind of understand that from the perspective that he had a poor finish to the season, really, wasn't really in the starting 11 either, couldn't seem to displace Cody Gakpo, and so it all kinds of add up to, alongside the disappointment of the fact he hasn't scored as many goals as you might have hoped in his first couple of seasons at Liverpool. It's added up to speculation that he might be on the way, with Barcelona being the club who are most frequently linked. Now, in terms of the reality behind this one, I think there's a few reasons to be sceptical about the idea that he might go. The first is that, if Barcelona are the club who are most interested in, the idea that they're going to be able to get the money together to buy him seems a little bit outlandish at the moment. It's well known that they've got financial problems, isn't it? And to put together a fee that's going to make Liverpool want to cut the losses on Nunez, I just think that is really, really difficult to see. And there's another element as well in that, look, Darwin Nunez is a player who, yes, he misses a lot of chances, and there's a lot of frustration around elements of his game, many of which I've spoken about after matches on this channel. But I think, if you're Michael Edwards or you're Richard Hughes or you anyone in recruitment at Liverpool who looks at the sort of deeper underlying numbers, you look at Darwin Nunez as a player who it wouldn't take much really to sort of increase his output to a level that's acceptable. He gets an unbelievable amount of shots, and yes, he's wayward in those, but if you finish it at even a sort of normal level rather than the subpar finishing we've seen in recent seasons from him, he will be such a dangerous player. I mean, he's already Liverpool's second top scorer this season, so you think if his finishing was just around average or just even below average, how many goals he would have got. And I think there will be a consensus at Liverpool. It's certainly my understanding that the consensus is that there's more to come from Nunez. Yes, it's been frustrating, but they believe under Arne Slot that slight improvements can be made to his game that will make him the really dangerous forward that Liverpool thought they were getting. And also, he's under contract till 2028, so it's a long way to go in terms of that. And I think at the very least, the belief is at Liverpool, or my understanding of that is that, look, at least one more season to see if this coach can get anything more out of him, and then we maybe make a decision if it doesn't quite work out. But I don't expect Darwin Nunez to be departing this summer. I think Slot is excited to work with him and see what he can get out of him. And as I say, it doesn't take much to really improve his output. So let's see if Liverpool can get that. But as I say, don't expect him to be departing the club this summer. Now, another player who's been linked with a departure recently, these made headlines, really, reports and suggestions that he could be on his way to Saudi Arabia, and that is Allison Becker. I wrote a report myself actually about this, in terms of there is interest in him from several clubs. That's from sources close to the player. There is real interest in Alisson, and Saudi Arabia, they obviously think that he will be a brilliant marquee signing for them this summer. But those sources close to the player also insist that Allison Becker is absolutely very happy at Anfield. He wants to stick around and usher in this new era under Arne Slot. He doesn't want to just depart now that Jurgen Klopp has left the club, and so all the focus is on the fact that Alisson will stay. I mean, he's under contract till 2027, so Liverpool don't have any concerns in terms of being tested by that. Any sort of offer that comes in, they're in a really comfortable contractual position. And it's also my understanding that Claudio Taffarel will be staying on the coaching staff going into next season. Now, he was recommended to be part of the coaching staff by Alisson himself. They're both Brazilians. They've got a really strong working relationship. So the fact that Taffarel is staying, and the players, sources close to the player are saying he's happy, that all adds up to me to suggest that he's absolutely going to stay put this summer. No concerns whatsoever that he's going to be one who could be pushing for a departure, or that Liverpool, even with a ludicrous sum coming in, any sort of offer, would even be tempted to take it, because they know they've got the best goalkeeper in the world there, so they will be absolutely resolved to keeping him in a really good position to do so. So don't expect anything to develop on that one. Now, another one who seems to have been linked in the build-up to summer with a potential departure is Luis Diaz. Now, again, Barcelona seems to be the ones who are linked to him, and again, I would always push forward that idea that the money's got to be right for Liverpool to consider a sale. They're in a fairly comfortable contract situation in terms of, again, another one who signed up till 2027. They are in a time there where, given Diaz's age, he is 27 himself, he's contracted till 2027. Maybe this is a summer where typically you will be talking around a new deal if they wanted to keep him. But as I say, still a fairly comfortable contractual situation. Barcelona, if they are the club that are going to come in, are they going to be able to raise the funds to tempt Liverpool into doing anything? The one thing I would say on Diaz is I don't think it's a clear-cut one. My understanding is that Liverpool happy to keep him at the moment, think he's out, but also they believe that maybe his output could be slightly better if there's an opportunity to do something in that position where maybe they lose a Diaz and replace him with someone who maybe scores a few more goals, as good as everything else that he does in the game is. That maybe that's something they look into. It's not one where you're absolutely being shut down, there's no chance of Diaz leaving, but equally it's not one where it's guaranteed that he's going to depart this summer, because as I say, there's so many variables outside of Liverpool's control there. Can Barca raise the money? Do Paris Saint-Germain come in? They're another club who's been linked. Do they put up the funds to sign him? It's an interesting one. It's one that I think it's a possibility, not one that I would absolutely rule out in the way that I would Alisson and Nunez, but equally not one that you would hang your hat on and say, oh, he's absolutely definitely going to depart this summer. I think he's a really interesting story going into this summer for Liverpool, and one to really keep an eye on. It's one of those that's almost 50-50 at the moment, so I would keep an eye on to see how that one develops. Now, the next three players I want to talk about, I'm going to group them together because they're all entering the final year of the contract. So again, this is another interesting situation for all three of them, and I'm going to start with Mohamed Salah, and I think it's pretty concrete now, we can say, and he tweeted something to this effect essentially yesterday, that Mohamed Salah will absolutely stay put at Liverpool Football Club no matter what this summer. Obviously he's in the final year of his contract, and that throws up questions about his future, but even if an offer was to come in from Saudi Arabia, Liverpool have no interest in taking that. Mohamed Salah himself obviously is not in a position where he's ready to go to what at the moment looks a little bit like a retirement league, you have to say. So he's happy to at least stay at Liverpool for one more year. Now, there is talk and reports I've seen of Liverpool wanting to be in contract talks with Mohamed Salah. My personal take on that is a very, very difficult deal to strike. We've seen slight signs of decline from Mo Salah in the latter half of last season. He is at an age where that will happen. He's clearly not the player he was. And so the idea that Liverpool are going to offer him an extension on 350 grand a week, I find that very hard to believe. And my understanding is that would be a very, very difficult deal for Liverpool to strike. I feel, it's my personal take rather than my understanding, is that we're heading towards a situation whereby Mohamed Salah leaves at the end of next season on free transfer. I think that would be a situation that maybe suits everyone. It allows Salah to go and find a big payday somewhere, to go to a club that then wouldn't have to pay a transfer fee and can put every little bit of that money into offering him a massive contract, and Liverpool get another season of a player who, for me, is still their best player, even though he's showing those signs of decline. And he can still have a massive role to play next season. So I think that's where we're heading with Mo Salah, but the only certainty at the moment is that he's going to be here next season. He's going to be a Liverpool player, so that is one that you can be absolutely sure of as things stand now. The other two players, of course, Trent Alexander-Arnold is one of them. Again, another tricky situation in that his contract situation, he's 12 months out going into this summer. it's a big deal for Liverpool to do, because obviously he's vice captain, probably going to be future captain. He's one of Liverpool's best players, one of the most influential. But I think it's tricky in that, it's, as I say, the numbers are going to make that a tricky deal to do. There's a lot of financial issues there. He's going to want a massive deal, and maybe a little bit of a debate about his role. Does he want to move into midfield on a full-time basis? Is Slot going to allow him? These are all things that need to be nailed down this summer and spoken about. But again, it's another one where there's a real expectation at Liverpool that Trent, no matter what, will be at Liverpool going into the start of next season. There's confidence that his deal will get sorted out. Obviously, there's desire on both sides to get this sorted out. It's a big deal, so that makes it tricky, as I say. But I think there's a desire to get it done, as I say. And this part is just my personal opinion. Again, I lean towards maybe Trent being signed up this summer. I think there would be a little bit of worry if it got to the end of the summer and nothing had been agreed. You don't want to get into that final year. You don't want it to get into a situation where we're heading to the season with that unresolved. But my expectation is that the hands will be shaken on a deal this summer, and that there's hope on the Liverpool side at least that will be the case, and that Trent will stay around long enough to be the Liverpool captain eventually. And that he's always said that's his dream. So that's the hope on Liverpool's side and the hope on the players' side. Now, the last one of these contractual situations that we'll touch on is Virgil Van Dijk. Now, it was interesting. I had a conversation with Virgil in the mix zone after the game on Sunday, and he told me there's no offer on the table as things stand from Liverpool, but I get the sense from sources close to the play he's very, very keen to stay put. I mean, again, maybe a slightly tricky deal to do in that he's 32 years of age, so you don't want to have someone's legs go on your pitch, do you, is the old saying. You want to make sure you protect yourself from that decline. But I think with Van Dijk, the way he plays the game, the fact he's a centre-half, you don't have to be as electric pace-wise, do you, as a forward, and the experience and the quality that he's got, and the fact he's club captain, I think really it means that he's got a few more years left at the elite level. I thought he was one of Liverpool's best players last season, almost back to his best really. Even if he's not going to hit that absolute peak again, he's in and around it, and he's definitely one of the best centre-halves in the world. So again, that's one that I expect will get done. I don't think it's as tricky as a Salah situation, but I think that one will, a deal will be agreed on that front. But again, it's a situation now going into the summer. They'll have to sit down and talk about that one and get it thrashed out. But the player is so keen to say. I think Liverpool's side, they're really keen to give him a fresh deal as well. So I think that is one that will get ironed out and sorted. Very much confident about that one, as I am with the Trent one. Maybe less so with Salah. But again, it's one where absolutely no chance he departs this summer. So I think we can rule that one out. And it's just one, can they get that deal done over these summer months? We'll have to see. Now, a few more I wanted to talk about before I wrap up in terms of potential outgoings, and a couple that, not really been reports yet, but ones that I think are worth keeping an eye on. And one of those is Quaveen Kelleher. So good for Liverpool this season, hasn't he, when he came in for Alisson when he was injured in mid-season. But obviously the question mark over Kelleher for the last 2 summers really has been the fact that does he want to go and play first team football. And I think the fact that he's won the League Cup again at Liverpool, he was part of that, he's played a lot more games this season and really shown in those games that he's ready to go and play first team football elsewhere. I expect there's going to be offers for him. There were a few sort of light inquiries into him maybe over last summer, but nothing really progressed. Whereas this summer, I really think there's going to be an opportunity for him to move on from Liverpool, and one that he'll want to grasp, because he's at an age now where he's ready to play regularly. He's shown how good of a goalkeeper he is, and I think it's going to be time for all parties really to shake hands on a departure. Nothing concrete yet in terms of who that might be to, but I'm sure there will be massive interest in Kelleher because he's a quality goalkeeper. And I know already, it's my understanding that Liverpool have made some tentative inquiries around potential goalkeepers as well who could come in and be a replacement as a backup. So that's something Liverpool are preparing themselves for. So keep an eye out in terms of what happens for Kelleher in the coming weeks. And just wanted to finish up with a couple more. Kostas Tsimikas again, not one where there's been any reports, but again, he's 28 years old. He barely featured in the second half of the season. You had Joe Gomez there, who was jumped ahead of him really in the left back pecking order, just behind Andy Robertson. So I think this is a summer really where again he maybe makes the decision that it's time to move on. Obviously, the offer's got to be right for him, and it's got to be right for Liverpool. He did only sign a fresh contract last summer, but I think that was very much about protecting his value. So I think that's one that as I say, no developments on that yet, but it's just one I would say to absolutely keep an eye on. I think Kostas Tsimikas could be a little bit of a story this summer in terms of a potential departure, because he will want to play more football than he played in the second half of this season. And even though it's a change of manager and a fresh start, I just think there might be an opportunity there for him to go elsewhere and be first choice, because I don't think that opportunity is going to be available to him here. Now, I just want to finish up with a couple more as well. One of them's Joe Gomez. I've had it suggested to me a couple of times, not by sources I would absolutely nail down or sort of write anything on the basis of, but suggested that there's a possibility he might go. But again, I think that's one where maybe that's, sources close to the player, maybe they would say that, or would say that he wants to go and play more regularly elsewhere rather than being a backup, which is what he's been this season. And that's maybe an interesting one to keep an eye on. But I think, with a new manager coming in, could have a big role for him. He's a great player, isn't he? We know that. So, he could really impress the new manager. I think there's so much football for him, for someone who is so versatile as well, that, and also that, of course, has to be interest from clubs elsewhere and interest from clubs who are willing to pay the money to get him out of Liverpool. So that's just one of those that I just, sharing with you a rumour I've heard about that, but in terms of potentially wanting to go, but so much would have to come together for him to go that's not really one that I'm even keeping an eye on at the moment, but just one to have on your radar, I suppose. And the final one is Ryan Gravenberch. Again, there were reports, weren't there, of potential interest from clubs in Turkey, and maybe one of those clubs coming in and making an offer this summer. But again, sources close to the player kind of shooting that down at the moment, saying he's happy at Anfield. Obviously, Jurgen Klopp's departing, so things are changing. But he's got a Dutch manager coming in now who's renowned for developing young players. I thought he had a pretty decent debut season as well. So I think there's clear improvements that could be made. But he's very, very young, and he's got a manager who's good at improving young players. So looking forward to seeing what the future holds for Gravenberch. And as I say, my understanding is that he's happy at Anfield, and that's not one to be concerned about in terms of potential departure. That's just sort of rumours at the moment, and nothing really concrete in that. So that wraps up sort of my assessment really of where the squad's up to in terms of potential outgoings. Of course, there's so much more to get into in the coming weeks in terms of incomings, and I'm sure things will start to heat up around that, even though it's very quiet at the moment. If you want to keep track of all that's going on and the insight I can offer in terms of what's happening behind the scenes at Anfield and with transfers this summer, then the best way to do that is to subscribe to the channel. I've been promising for a while that these transfer updates are coming, and I will keep them coming regularly throughout the summer. I promise that. And of course, if you can like as well, it always helps in terms of getting the video out there to new subscribers and new viewers. So would really, really appreciate that. And so I'm going to sign off there. And of course, because the transfer window is always busy, it's always crazy, and there's so many appointments in terms of staff to make at Liverpool, so many changes to make, it's going to be a busy one. So I will see you very soon.